From the John DeVita Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Armchair Experts with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Wednesday, June the 10th. And now, oh, yes, indeedy, here they are, live in person, and they left the oxygen bottle at home, Jim and Rich.
But we are taking nourishment intravenously. So.
Yes, indeedy.
Yes.
I like that, John.
I like that one, the Doctor of the Dials.
John, do you realize this is the last show that Jim will do as a single man?
Yes, I just wanted to. I just want to take a moment, gentlemen, and I just want to say on behalf of the staff here at the John DeVita Broadcast Center and the
who's sitting in the other room right now,
and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, and of course the staff and management of WRHS FM Norwich. Jim, we want to wish you the best of luck in your days to come and your special day on June the 20th.
June the 20th.
And I wish you and Dina a very, very happy and wonderful life together.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, John. That was
well
very
said.
Much. Very
thank
well
you.
said. Of course, everything you say is well said.
He thinks things out, and he can say all that nice stuff. You and I would go, hey, good luck.
You know who he reminds me of a little bit is our friend Myron Petrakis. Myron will write his thoughts down and make sure that he covers every name and every base that he needs to cover when he's presenting something. So John is in that category.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll do that too, so I don't forget points I want to make.
I don't do it.
But no, you just...
I wing it.
Whoosh.
I got to ask you a question.
Ask me a question.
Did Eddie Johnston ever play for the Hawks?
Yes. No, yes, he did.
I think he did.
Yes, he did, besides coaching him.
Yeah. That's right. I guess he did coach.
He did coach him. He had a good year with him, or two.
Okay. What did they get rid of him? Was it the Jim Lefevre process?
Right. He was much too good.
He was too good, so
he
had
was
to get
much
rid of
too
him?
good, so they had to get rid of him. And good Lord, I hope that wasn't Alpo replacing him.
Hey, Alpo Suhonen. Well, there's a name.
There was a name. Did you ever hear I remember when the Hawks were on the Score, and they had, I can't remember who did the pregame show with him, but I heard the whole clip, and it was so funny, because Alpo, being Finnish and spending a lot of time in France, had sort of this interesting accent. It was sort of a French-Finnish accent.
Mm.
And the words just didn't quite flow out right sometimes, and it had sort of an interesting lilt to it. And that particular season, the Hawks were doing well on the road, but were having a hard time winning at home. And whoever was doing the pregame with him asked him, why is that the case? And he launched off into this long explanation about, well, what is home? People are not here from this area. It's very difficult to call this home, but we are trying to put together an atmosphere. And we have coaches in place. And then we are going to work hard, and we are going to grow together and have some sex.
They have some what?
And they finished that whole dissertation, and whoever was doing that couldn't even think of a follow-up and went, okay, we'll be right back after this on Blackhawks Radio.
Well, first
we will grow together and have success.
What? Oh, I see.
I never was quite sure if he was talking about goat cheese in space, coaches in place, coaches in place.
Okay, I was going to say, because what did coaches have anything to do with
I don't know, but that was one of the.
He was Cochise was an Apache or something.
Yeah,
he wasn't a Blackhawk.
And it was either that or goat cheese in space. I'm not sure.
Oh wow, okay.
But that was some
man. Alpo Suhonen.
Alpo Suhonen coached the Wolves too. The only coach who's coached both hockey teams in town.
Wow. All right, you had something.
I feel like I'm feeling very sports Jimmy-ish. I'm not out on the ledge yet.
Oh, they were not out on the ledge on what?
On the Hawks, but I've got the window open and I'm starting to look outside.
Well, I mean, I would say this: the Hawks Mike Milbury said it correctly after Game 3 last night that for the major part of these playoffs, the Hawks have been outplayed.
Yes,
Now,
they have been.
I would say I'm not a big fan of history repeating itself, but in the previous 2 Stanley Cup finals that we've won with this group, Chris Pronger gave us fits initially in the Philadelphia series. Zdeno Chara did the same thing in the Boston series. And so far, Victor Hedman has been a standout on defense for the Lightning in this series. And we're down 2-1 as we were in that previous series with Boston. And I'm just hoping that the Hawks do what they usually do, figure out what's happening, and come back and get this thing. I know they haven't looked good, but the reality is a couple of bounces either way, and either team could be up 3-0.
Yeah, either team could be up that way.
Now, I think
I thought the other night. Certainly with Game 1. The good news was the Hawks didn't play well and won the game, and the bad news was the Hawks didn't play well and won the game.
I think the thing that I see a little bit is after the series, the hotly contested series with Nashville, Minnesota, and Anaheim, all in their division. I think the unfamiliarity with Tampa is become a little bit of a problem.
That's playing on them.
So
are they tired?
I don't know if they're tired.
Sometimes I look and I'm not sure.
I just what, I've seen them look like this before during the playoffs, even in in these last 3 series.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the other thing is I think the Hawks are almost like a boxer. They feel out the opponent, especially over a 7-game series. And I'm hoping that's going to happen. But I agree with what you're saying. I mean, after last night, my son came home and he goes, "Man, we're in trouble." And I've thought that the problem is I've thought that with the Hawks numerous times over all of the series they've played in all of these years that it seems that they've been together. Jim, all of a sudden they're seeming like the old team, and they're not old.
No.
So
no.
But they've played so many of these big games and big series, and as I say, there's been times when I had that exact same feeling. Oh man, we're dead in the water, and all of a sudden they come back and surprise you.
Yeah,
so,
I sat here last night and I was doing some other things, so I didn't really had the game on the tube, and boy, I'm sounding old. I had the game on the tube.
On the tube.
Yeah. And I was doing some other things, but I had the volume cranked up. And then I sat down and watched it, and I kind of looking at them, and I'm going, Yeah, that's when I suddenly thought, well, I'm not on the ledge, but I got the window open, and I'm checking outside.
No, I mean, maybe it's just because the Lightning are quick, and they are younger.
They're young.
Even than the Hawks.
Yeah.
It's at times it looked like our guys were skating in mud.
Yeah.
But you know what? I've seen the Hawks do that even through the prior 3 series, and then the next time you see them, they come out, and they're fantastic. Well, the thing that's been happening in my limited expertise in hockey, though, I always listen to Eddie Olczyk, and Eddie Olczyk is big on winning those battles on the boards.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much the hitting part of it, but winning that puck, digging that puck out on the boards.
Yeah.
I don't think the Hawks have done that.
No.
The other thing is the Hawks are tremendous with their sticks and getting and deflecting passes and stopping the other team's offensive rushes. I haven't seen any of that at all.
No.
So
and as I've always said too, my favorite female hockey player and that front presence hasn't been around that much.
Yeah, well, actually though,
although Shaw is on Bickle. Bickle is there available now to do some of that.
Yeah, but I'd say as the captain, Jonathan Taves is probably going to say at some point. We can take this to another level, and let's see if that's right.
Well, he felt that after the game last night, especially allowing them to turn around and score 13 seconds right after them, is they've done this before where they have a tendency to suddenly sit back.
Yeah,
and that caught him last night.
Well, I'm thinking, Jim, after that goal by Saad to put him ahead.
Right.
My thoughts was, okay, come on, let's press the advantage here and get another goal and put us up by 2. And as you say, the next thing you know,
13
they
seconds.
score a goal and it's tie.
13 seconds later, they tie it, and that's the game. And then suddenly, you're suddenly playing not to win, but more not to lose. I guess I don't know. It was kind of the way Tampa played the first game.
Maybe so. I don't know. By the way, I have to say this. Carol Berry texted me last night and asked me if Al Marks was going to be on the show. And I think we might have mentioned that Al was possibly going to be on the show this week. And just if anybody else has questions about that,
some people might not know who Al is.
Al Marks is a former Ridgewood football coach, also basketball coach, Hall of Fame, Illinois High School Hall of Fame honoree. And the reason that
and my old bookkeeping teacher,
and your old bookkeeping teacher, and the reason Al is not here is that sad to say, a loss in what I would consider our Ridgewood family. Phyllis Pagliaro, who was the wife of Mike Pagliaro Sr., who was a former board member, former coach.
Didn't know.
And the mother of Tom and Mike Pagliaro, as well as their sister Laura, passed I think it was only 2 days ago, because when I talked to Coach, it was, I want to say maybe Saturday night.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And this had just happened. Phyllis, I think, was at the doctor. She had a heart attack there. They couldn't save her. So she passed at the doctor's office. So Al was putting this day aside in case this was the day of the wake. The wake is going to be in Hinsdale at the Russo Funeral Home. Is it Hinsdale? I don't know if I have that right. Hillside. And the reason for that, for it not being at Cumberland Chapels, I would assume, would be that when Al told me Russo, Mike, the Pagliaros are actually related to one of my best friends when I was in college, Sam Stellato, and the Russos are also relatives. So that would be the reason that
it may have been
be
a family
Russo.
tie. Yeah, it may have been a family tie.
So,
well, we're sorry to hear that. We send our condolences out to the Pagliaro family, and we look forward to having Al on sometime in July.
In July, right?
And sit around and talk a little football, a little Ridgewood history, and maybe find out what's going on over at Guerin Academy. He's going to be an assistant this year, too, right? Isn't he going to be an assistant, Al?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought he was. Oh.
So,
you had a panicky look on your face. Did I say something wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, not the first time that's happened.
Okay. But at any rate.
Well, we'll make believe I didn't say that.
Yeah, that's right. At any rate, you said, Jim, we unless you have more on the Hawks, did we want to talk about the Sox?
No, I actually just talking about taking a walk down, talking about people from the past. I didn't get a chance to get over this weekend to Vince's, but for those of us in the neighborhood who went to Giles School, there's a group that's trying to organize a little periodic get-together for Giles graduates, and they had their first get-together on Sunday.
Okay.
And I had a picture of it, and I just wanted to show it to you, and you should recognize a couple of faces in there. Even though they're getting old.
Wait a minute, I just screwed that up.
Okay.
Hold on. Get that back for me.
All right.
You say I should recognize some of these faces?
You should recognize a couple of faces in there.
I see Larry Ritzert.
Yep.
Wow. And, I'm trying to see.
That's his brother next to him.
That's Ronnie?
That's Ronnie.
Boy, oh boy, that's interesting.
The good doctor.
I don't know. Who else are these? Who are these people?
Well, there are other people in there. Let me see. One over on the end is okay. I just forgot her name. I'll think of it. But anyhow, Linda DeBella is in there.
Oh, is that Linda on the right?
Linda's back on the left.
Okay.
Donna Jacobs Costello.
Okay.
Somebody you and I went to school with her brother, Violet Ostheimer is in there.
Oh, okay.
But it was they're going to try to get together again in September, so
that should be neat.
that should be neat. Nice.
If you can, if you can manage to segue,
Segue?
is that? If you can manage to get in, let's put it that way.
Yes. Yes.
Segue from whatever important duties you have
That's
out
right.
in Woodridge and
That's right.
get on in here.
Come in for that. It might be fun to see on a Sunday afternoon. I said it's going to depend on the Bears' schedule.
That's right.
Although I said I don't think they're going to be that good this year. Maybe a week without football will help.
You'll be wanting to sit in front of that TV all fall and winter, Jim.
I know. Hey, did you watch any of the NBA Finals?
No, but I was happy to see that after our little texting back and forth that the Cavs came back and won an OT game.
I know, and he is just about. I think if he puts them on his back and carries them,
Yeah,
he deserves a place on the NBA Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, well, I think by the way, we were going back and forth about an NBA Mount Rushmore, and I think your guys up there were MJ and Bill Russell and Magic, but what about Larry Bird and Wilt Chamberlain?
I was sitting. I put about 4 different lists together.
Okay, how about Dr. J?
And I had Dr. J, and I had Kareem. Jerry West, the man who's the NBA logo. George Mikan.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. You know what the NBA I have to say,
Fred Hoiberg.
It would be, I think, and in the NBA though, I'll just throw a number out. There's probably 20 very obvious guys that would be in the. Remember when they did the top 50 players of all time?
Yeah.
There's 20. I'll just say 20 real obvious guys, and then after that, there are a lot of contenders. Let's just put it that way, because when I remember when the list came out and Scottie Pippen was on it. I'm not objecting to Scottie Pippen, but I'm thinking it's the timing was good for Scottie in that case. Because if you go 10 years down the road, if they did that list today, would Scottie Pippen be on it?
Would he be on it?
And it's no offense to Scottie, because Scottie was an excellent player.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting the timing of it.
Yeah. But if he can, and I mean, geez, what is he averaging for these 2 games? Like LeBron, 41 points.
That's amazing. And you know what?
He had 39 points, 16 rebounds, and 11 assists Sunday night.
Wow. That's
and he's got a bunch of bums that he's dragging along with him.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say that. But I would say this. I think that in this case, every team, every year that LeBron has played, when he started out with the Cavs, he was still young. So I don't think he wanted to assert himself in that way. He wanted to maybe be seen in a certain way, which is the right way. He wanted to be a team guy.
Right.
Went to Miami. That first year, if you remember, I have some distinct memories of that. It seemed that Miami had the talent, but they never had faced the issue of who was going to have the ball in their hands at the end of the game. So they didn't
cost him a title.
Cost him a title, and then of course the 2 titles that he won. But I would say LeBron, with his great skills, has been the type of guy, you know what, I just want to blend in. And this is going to be interesting because this is the occasion when he's going to be forced, as you say, to carry the team on his back, and he's very capable of doing it.
It was interesting. Somebody took one of the basketball analytics, win shares, whatever that happens to be. I looked up the definition once, and I don't remember what it was, and looked at all the championship teams that were playing for the NBA title, added up all their win shares, and took out the highest one on a team to determine what is the worst team that has ever played for an NBA title.
Okay.
Right now, this Cleveland Cavaliers is the second worst team ever to play for an NBA title, because you've got one guy who just really dominates.
Yeah,
the total, and you know what I mean. You've got some other people. You've got other people right now that aren't there to help, like Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love.
Yeah, that's true.
But little, what's his name, Dellavedova.
Dellavedova seems to be a gamer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like him.
he might be a guy that nobody would ever think of, except he gets this opportunity to shine here a little bit.
I like him. He's just like a little
yeah
gnat running around out there.
I think the other thing is there's some guys. J.R. Smith, as sketchy of a guy as he has been in his career, definitely can light it up when he's especially when he's shooting the ball. He could shoot the lights out. Iman Shumpert is. From all indications and all sources, is a really good defensive player. So it's and you know what? Who's the big guy that
I texted you
Mozgov?
Mozgov. I'm watching him and I'm going, I like him.
Yeah,
played a good game.
No,
By the way, for these two games, James is averaging 41.5 points, 12 rebounds, and 8.5 assists.
wow.
Wow.
Now let me ask you this though, and I think that the stat that you just mentioned about the win shares and what would happen if you took the top guy off out of that situation is actually a really interesting one to me. It's one of the ones that that is a type of stat that would pique my curiosity as opposed to a lot of the other ones I've heard. But the interesting thing is, it's like almost like a chicken and the egg sort of situation. Are the other guys less win share wise because that one person is so much more, or how does it work?
Right. It might be that he just dominates the game so much.
Right.
And by the way, the worst team ever to play was the Cleveland team he was on that went to the finals.
Okay. Oh, these were just fine, not winning teams,
no,
but final teams.
Teams in the finals.
Okay.
It's just that he dominates the game so much, you don't have the balance. It would be interesting to look at the six Bulls teams that won titles.
Oh yeah.
To look at the win shares for those teams and take Michael out and see how they would have looked. I think those teams had a little, even though Michael was dominant, I think there was a lot of contributors and a lot of balance.
Well,
more balance to those teams.
The interesting thing about teams like that is, I'm thinking that I'm glad you said Michael, Jim, because when Michael first came, and how many years did it take before the Bulls won with Jordan? It was a good 6-7 years.
7 years, I think.
7 years. Well, I actually was at.
Now you had tickets early.
The first.
You had tickets in the early days, didn't you?
No, right prior to that, we had the tickets, but I did see 2 games in his rookie year. Mm-hmm. So, the first team that he played on, I think Steve Johnson was on the team. There was another young guy that was a guard with him out of Alabama. I can't think of his name.
Ennis Watley.
What was his name?
Ennis Watley.
Ennis Watley.
Why that name just popped into my head? I don't know.
That's who it was.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about the stat that you're mentioning is that that team probably, obviously, even with Michael Jordan, was not going to go anywhere. But until Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant were drafted to fill the roles that they had, and then you had guys like Cliff Livingston that was brought over from, was it Atlanta? Was he with?
Yeah.
And, I think that the problem with maybe a stat like that, as fascinating as I find it, is that some guys are not going to get great win shares because they're only going to be role players. But you need those role players. And I think you just mentioned Dellavedova. I mean, nobody really envisioned that he was going to be a starter in this series. But you know what? So far, at least from what you're saying, what you've seen him play, you've liked what you've seen. He's not going to be Kyrie Irving, but he's going to be the best Dellavedova you can get, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's I think that's the problem when you know what, you and I, Jim, have to say we'll never make it in the big time because we're too. I think we understand. Maybe I'm not saying the other guys who comment on things don't understand, but they're going for ratings. We have the luxury of just being able to maybe see things and talk about things a little more clearly. Because on other talk radio stations in regards to sports, things are a little bit too black and white. and it's not always that way.
You know what? And they try to provoke things
Right.
too.
Right.
We've got nobody to. We've got nobody.
Yeah,
To,
we got nobody. We got nobody to provoke.
Nobody to provoke other than we just throw something at John every so often, just
That's right. John is. Yeah.
and, and threaten to start talking dirty on the air just to watch him start to cross himself and grab his phone so he can call the priest.
Now, I was going to say that I didn't see the game. Now, is Klay Thompson back in full force with the Warriors, or is he out?
He played a good game. Steph Curry had a bad game the other night, and I mean, for a stretch there, I don't think Steph Curry could have thrown the ball into the ocean.
Well, see, here I'll go back to the things that kill me about the way sports are reported, radio, TV, press. I read an article last week, and you know what? I like Stephen Curry. He's an excellent player, but whoever wrote the article, I don't remember who it was. Probably, the argument was he might be the best shooter of all time, best pure shooter of all time.
Curry?
And
Maybe.
I don't know, maybe
Maybe.
he could be,
Maybe.
but I again, how could you put it? When you're thinking about guys like a Jerry West or a more current guy like a Ray Allen, who I'll tell you what, I'm more of an old school guy, going back to a guy like maybe Jerry West or something like that. But every time I ever saw Ray Allen play, even as he got older, I said, this guy is magnificent. I mean, this guy he's got like the ball is attached to his hand, and there's a rubber band to the basket, and it's in. I mean, I think that, to me, if Steph Curry is a better shooter than Ray Allen, then I'd say maybe he is the greatest shooter of all time, because in my mind, Ray Allen sticks out above anybody I've seen. But, again, you go back to the old conversation we have. Would you rather have Mickey Mantle or Willie Mays? And if you took Willie Mays, I wouldn't be upset to have Mickey Mantle, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So I think when you start to say this guy is the best, you can never say that unless it's Babe Ruth.
Then there's no
Then there's
argument.
no argument.
Then there's no argument.
Yeah.
Or Wayne Gretzky. Although you could get some arguments.
You get an argument from me, but
Yeah, I remember all the talk. I mean, after the merger, the great Gretzky,
mm-hmm.
and a writer when the Hawks were playing the Oilers, and somebody wrote the article. He said, I have heard Perlman play the violin and was moved. I've heard Fitzgerald scat and sing jazz and was enraptured. Those are greats. The great Gretzky? No, not really. The pretty good Gretzky, yes.
Let me ask you this, Jim. Yeah. Obviously Wayne Gretzky was great, but here's what I'm going to say to you. I saw Gretzky play in an exhibition game against the Hawks one year. And of course, it's an exhibition game. And obviously, he's very good. But I have to say that I saw Bobby Orr play a regular season game with the Hawks, and he was on one leg.
And he still had it.
He still had it.
He still had it on one leg.
The thing I would say, now here's my, and I'm not, I am not interested in getting into a discussion about Bobby Orr or Wayne Gretzky, but now, when we talk about great players, are we talking about, obviously Wayne Gretzky was great, and I mean his stats and the championships he won proves it. You can't take it away from him. But I guess my point would be the eyesight test. I saw Gretzky when he played, obviously very good. I could not take my eyes off Bobby Orr when he was on the ice. Okay, and that to me is the difference.
There are guys that I've watched over the years that you just, when they're out there, you
can't help but watch them.
You can't help but watch them.
Yeah.
Or Hull.
Right, Hull. You're right.
Gordie Howe.
Yeah.
You can name a number of people with the great Canadian teams, the Montreal teams.
Definitely. And I'm not
I
saying
don't.
Gretzky,
I don't remember. I was too young to remember the Rocket
the Rocket Richard.
because he retired like 1960
Yeah, he was when we were just kids.
when
he
we
was,
were
he was
kids,
done.
and
So.
but those were the guys you couldn't help but watch.
Now the interesting thing though is there are also are we going to a station break?
I don't know, John.
John, are you ready?
Are you
Okay,
ready?
Let's go.
All right, we'll break. We'll be back.
You are listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, June the 10th, the year of our Lord, 2015, with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois. And now back to Jim and Rich.
I got a question for John.
You got a question for John?
John.
Okay.
John, when are you going to get Gaetano to stay in here and do that little in between spot, so that we can get the damn thing done right?
You know, the gates on the front door just got locked.
John, by
Where
the way, is that why that light's going off? You locked the gates? What is that light? I never noticed it before. The light.
Phone call coming in.
Okay.
All
right.
Okay. I hear the phone going in the other room,
Okay.
so that's the reason.
Okay.
Gaetano, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? We play Where in the World is Gaetano?
You know what? I thought that it'd be after the beginning of the football season last year that we would never ever not see Gaetano. And then he just sort of drifted off into the sunset.
Well, then he shows up for a game, and somebody had to point him out to me and say, that's Gaetano. And then by the time I turned around and looked, he was gone.
He was yeah, I think that's Gaetano's MO at this point in time. God bless Gaetano, though. He's a nice kid.
Nice kid, but just disappears.
Yep.
Let's see, where were we? We were talking about people. We were talking about people you just had to watch.
Yeah. No.
And I was thinking about some of that the other, through this series when, through the Stanley Cup series when some of these commercials and clips have been on, and Orr scoring the goal in overtime to beat the Blues while he was in the air.
While he was in the air, yeah.
It's still one of the most amazing plays I've ever seen.
I was just thinking about Bobby Orr the other day, and I'm obviously because the Stanley Cup's going on, you see his face on those clips. But I'm thinking if I'm correct, the two teams when Orr was going to leave the Bruins, and I don't remember what the circumstances were, but the two teams in the bidding were the Hawks and the Blues. And I always thought to myself, were the Blues in the bidding strictly because of that one play?
You wonder.
You
wonder.
Because that play. Of all the hockey plays I've ever seen in my life, if you asked me to picture one play in my head and be able to come up with it, that's the one. I'll never forget him flying through the air and knocking that puck in the net.
Yeah,
I have to say those Blues teams, because the Blues were an expansion team.
Right.
They were playing out of the West Division.
They were part of the second six.
The second six, right?
Right.
And they made the Cup Finals, and I believe the Bruins swept them, but the Blues were in
every game.
Yeah. The guy that I remember he was a veteran and was probably one of their best players was Red Berenson.
Mm-hmm.
So that they had a nice team. I mean, they had a very workmanlike, good team. So the Bruins were.
Glenn Hall wound up there.
Glenn Hall, and I think interesting thing
wasn't
Glenn Hall and Jack Plant.
I was just about to say, wasn't Jack Plant there the other goaltender there for a while?
Yeah. So
it was a veteran team, but
yeah,
those are the guys you would just have to watch.
Oh, gosh.
When they're on the ice,
that's for sure.
And I mean, you look at this Hawk team, and you see Tays down there, and that's a guy you watch because just
he's going to make something happen. There's the other thing though. In the other than well, I shouldn't say that. 2 of the 3 triplets for Tampa Bay have gone really well. Tyler Johnson so far, and they're saying as of last night that he might be a little dinged up and still playing. But our big guys have not stepped to the fore as of yet, and I'm waiting to see if hopefully that'll happen. So
hope so, because
I mean, Kane has been almost non-existent.
He's been non-existent, and what was it? Bickle hasn't scored a goal since the third game of the last series.
Bickle?
Bickle.
Bickle hasn't scored a
No,
goal
since
and
Tuesday.
he hasn't scored a goal the whole playoffs.
I thought he got one in the. No, maybe it was the first series.
No, so
Maybe that was it.
Actually, our depth guys are helping us out. We'd be totally out of the series if it wasn't for your Vermettes and your Shaws and your Richards.
And you got to ask. You got to ask how much. The fact that they're shorthanded as far as the defensemen. You have to ask how much of that is affecting this.
What I was thinking about, though,
team.
Jim, when you see how much, because Victor Hedman leads the Tampa Bay team in minutes played.
Right.
I'm wondering how out there this whole idea of the four defensemen is, because I don't know how much time the fifth and sixth guys on these other teams are playing on defense either.
I don't know
They're
either.
making an issue of it with the Hawks.
They're certainly making an issue of it on the Hawks, and let me see if I can find still find the scores from last night if they have the time played. What'd you think of Van Riemsdyk last night?
He was solid.
He was solid.
Let me ask you this: is Antoine Vermette, does he pay off the linesman or something? Does that guy ever lose a face-off? And not only does he win the face-off, but the other guy doesn't even have a chance most of the time.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel!
Yeah.
So while Jim is looking,
I don't think I can find the stats and everything else on the minutes, because sometimes they have it up here, but I think they've taken that off on this. I'm checking on Yahoo Sports app on my phone, and all I see, in fact, they don't even have the full details. No, they've kind of taken that off. No, they don't even have the full details from last night.
Well, Jim, would you
actually, they've got it set up for the. No, they don't even have anything up here from last night.
I'm just wondering. Obviously, Quenneville's going to shake up the lines again because they got to get Kane for sure going, and I'm just wondering how that's going to, who he's going to be playing with, who he'll be on with.
I don't know. Who was he with last night? He was with Richards.
Was he with Richards?
I think he was with Richards, and was he with Hossa last night?
Jeez, I don't know. I thought Hossa went back up to the first line.
Oh, no, Hossa was on the first line. You're right.
By the way, they kept
Bickle,
saying
maybe.
That Hossa, the being 36, that the playoffs were starting to, all these games over all these years were starting to wear on him. He looked like a horse last night.
He sure did.
Hey, man.
Sure did.
I'll tell you what he was battling with. I'll tell you, there's a man that I wouldn't want to go up against if with a meeting of the wills, because at one point they were along the far boards, at least from the angle that we're looking at, and he was there with Hedman, and he gives away 10 years and probably a few pounds to Hedman, not many but a few, and you know what? He would not let Hedman win that battle on those boards. He would not let him win it.
Mm-mm.
He ended up coming away with that puck.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, I tell you, Marian Hossa, there's a guy we don't talk very much about, but he's what a player he is.
Yeah.
I have to say, I always thought Bobby Hull was one of the strongest guys I ever saw in the game, but I'm not sure that Bobby is stronger than Hossa. I mean, he's very hard to knock off his skates and just a tough player.
Yeah. There was I'll have to see if I can find the clip off the air for you, because I had a good laugh. If I play it on the air, John will call the priest and have a stroke immediately. But Hull at an appearance after Game 1.
Okay.
It was one of those clips. The more you hear it, the funnier it gets.
Okay. Yeah.
Because there's nothing better than old man swearing when he really sounds like.
Oh, I see.
Especially with a voice like that.
There we
go.
Hey, we're what, 40 minutes into the show. You told me before the show you wanted to talk about the Sox a little bit, and we haven't touched on them at all.
Let's talk about the Sox. I'm trying to figure out what in the God's name is wrong with this team.
I'll tell you what.
Even though they won last night, and that's only because Chris Sale pitched.
When you throw I'll put it this way, with no disrespect to anybody. You throw a bunch of bodies together, and they could be very good players, and the Sox have some very good players. Sometimes you get this deal where everybody's sort of looking at each other to get the thing going, and it just doesn't happen.
It's not happening.
And it just, I'll say this, though, too. When you think about, Jim Kelly was saying this to me, Jim. He says they signed Adam LaRoche as a DH, okay? And it makes sense when you think about it on a head level. But if you really think about it, how much sense does it make? Adam LaRoche is an excellent defensive first baseman. They're not going to take their younger first baseman, Abreu, who's the lesser defensive player, and make him the DH.
And I think he's wound up playing. I think he's wound up playing a little bit more at first base because I think Abreu's had a hand problem.
He had a hand problem.
So I think, and he's a good defensive player.
But
I'm just looking at the slash line for LaRoche, and you're getting about what you expect from him: 239, 360 on base, and a 400 slugging. You're getting about what you expect.
Well, what I'm saying though is when you just throw guys on the team and say, here's a guy who's never been a DH. Now he's going to be the DH.
Yeah, it's hard to get ready.
I would say, if you're going to, that's one of the hardest adjustments you would have to make. A guy, my feeling is DH is a very difficult position because you're only in the game once every, you might bat once every, half hour, 45 minutes?
Yeah,
sometimes?
Something like that, depending on how they get.
And that's significant because the other guys have the opportunity to be in the field part of the game. So that's a significant thing. Yeah. The other thing is, they brought in Melky Cabrera.
Cabrera has been awful.
He's not hit at all.
228 batting average, 263 on base percentage, and his slugging is 258.
Well, Jim,
He's had, 5 extra base hits this season.
When they brought Melky in and they said he's going to be the number 2 guy behind Eaton, and there was another guy who's really not hitting.
No.
When I look down the Sox, let me finish this thought, though. I'm thinking, I don't know where Melky Cabrera usually hits, but I'm not sure.
I don't think he's a set. I don't think he's a 2.
He's either. My guess is either bats leadoff or he's maybe 3 or 5 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think most of his time he was either a 3 or a 5.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, this is so maybe in Melky's case he's trying to do what he thinks a 2-hitter is supposed to do, and that ain't working for him.
Wow, it's sure not.
But when you look down the lineup, you got Eaton who's struggling, you got Cabrera who's struggling. Abreu's hitting like high 270s, but he's not having the same production he had last year.
No, maybe either the hand problem has gotten to him or they've figured him out. He, as of the other day, he was hitting 274. Mm-hmm. Ramirez again is back to his 237 batting average, 257 on base.
Mm-hmm. Garcia was up there for a while, but now he's dropped into the 290s from the
294.
Yeah.
294, but a 346 on base percentage, 435 slugging.
Gillespie is not doing as well as he did last year. Beckham's doing a little better, but they split time, so it's not that big of a thing.
Yeah.
Second base has been a revolving door.
Yeah, and you also look at they didn't get what they expected out of Samardzija. I think
they got what I would expect out of
Samardzija. They got more what I was thinking of a Samardzija.
Yeah,
but they're not getting what they expected. I haven't seen Carlos Rodon pitch yet, but they seem to be pleased with him.
I mean, he's been good, but I would say this: I think his problem is putting men on base with walks. His control's not as
his
good
control
as it should be.
His control. I mean, he's pitched 34 innings and he's walked 22.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the issue.
The thing, you know what though, even out of training camp though, they wanted to, in the worst way, to make Johnson a fit at second, and Sanchez really, in my mind, had won the job. And I know it's a minor thing. These are not super major players in the scope of the White Sox. But when as a player, when you see that and you experience that, I wonder what type of an effect that has on a team.
Yeah, you have to wonder, and you have to wonder when Johnson went out. Johnson was hitting 270.
Well, there's the other thing.
You were getting some production out of him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think as much as I hear what a great job Rick Hahn did of retooling the team. When I start to really look at it, I'm thinking, okay, I don't know who played left field last year. I don't remember. But, Melky is certainly not giving us more than what we had last year. LaRoche is obviously doing a little bit better than Dunn was perceived to have done. But it's not,
he's just
not so much that it's making a big difference.
No, maybe 20 point, little higher batting average.
The other thing that bothers me, Jim, is the way, and okay, we'll talk about Robin Ventura here, but it's all these managers do it. I see the two catchers, Flowers and Soto. Now, in my mind, I don't know what he's like now, and I'm not saying he's 10 times better than Flowers, but I would think Soto is the more dangerous guy with a bat than Flowers. But the way he's using them, neither one of them is very productive.
No, neither of them are productive. I didn't realize. I just looked now. I said Soto's 32.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know.
And maybe the age starts to catch up after a while.
I wish some of these guys, the managers that is, would just think for themselves instead of playing follow the leader with what every other manager does. I have to say, we talked about this a little bit last week, and I don't want to get off the Sox. But the more I see Joe Maddon, some of the stuff he does, I definitely disagree with. I still don't like the pitcher batting eighth.
Yeah.
But he's got a unique way of looking at things, and I don't know what they do in the clubhouse. They talked about his antics in the clubhouse trying to loosen the team up. But I think if you have the right guys with the right attitude, say when you take a guy like Chris Bryant and you put him in left field, or that he played center field a couple times. You know what? If the guys have the right way of looking at things, I think that will have a tendency to loosen the club up a little bit. Now, if things aren't going right, it could have the totally opposite effect. But what I see is that, and so what I like about Maddon is he's not strictly by the book, and I think the book there is no book anyway. But
no.
When you look at a guy like I'll say the same thing I said about the Bears. We're trying to rotate like 8 defensive linemen in the game, and we're not winning, at all. So why aren't you keeping your best guys on the field? And I would say this: if you got a guy, say, with a hot hand, instead of giving him that obligatory 1 day a week rest, why don't you just keep playing the guy with the hot hand? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem, I think, with these managers. They're not managing by what they see. They're managing by some predetermined set of rules that they've made up before the season even started.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
Maddon is interesting because if they do anything, he's going to. I think Maddon's going to be a guy who's going to relax them into a winning record.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody's going to be tense around Maddon because you look at Maddon, and Maddon's just kind of a goof.
Yeah, he is. But he knows his stuff.
He knows
the game.
He knows his stuff.
He's just got a different way of looking at it.
He's just got a different approach to it. I've never been able to figure Ventura out.
Oh, weren't we talking about this last week a little bit? Where Ventura, I think, is behind the 8 ball from the start because, as you pointed out, he's never managed before.
No.
Now you're going to manage at the big league level. And I would say that in terms of making a lineup or putting guys on the field, a starting lineup, you or I could probably do that. But I think the big thing is in handling the players in terms of how much time are they going to get playing-wise. The pitching staff is huge, especially the way today's game is played. I'm not so sure that Robin Ventura has been up for that.
I don't know either.
So,
You know, I had to laugh. You know, you talk about Madden and his odd way of doing things. You remember I think it was last season when he made out the lineup card and you looked at the positions and you went from top to bottom and the way the lineup was, and it listed out as 8675309.
yeah, see, but see,
Yeah, and you have to wonder, did he do that deliberately or?
I would think he did, because when you Jim, when you get into a long season, and I remember one time with the Flyers, we were the problem was that we were having we're playing at Portage Park, a 6:30 league, and guys were showing up 5 minutes before the game. So I said, okay, I'm tired of this. And Mike Lopez, who was our leadoff hitter and our best player, was always an early bird. So I said, okay, I'm not even going to say anything to these guys, but this is what I'm going to do. I already know Mike's going to be there, so
Mike's going to lead off?
he's leading off, which he did anyway.
Yeah.
But as each of them showed up,
Put him in a lineup.
that was the lineup. And you know what? Again, I didn't have to say one word to them. They got the message, and guess what? Everybody was earlier to the games after that. So
The master motivator.
So it was, there was nothing even said. I never mentioned one word about it. They got the message real quick. They knew what the lineup was, and they knew why it was what it was. And but I was going to say, I know Billy Martin was one, and he's not the only one, but where you get to a point and say you're in a slump, just you draw the names out of the hat.
Sure.
And in reality, Jim, as much as, say, even us, we'll talk about lineups and batting orders. The reality is, when you get through the order, depending how things are going, the leadoff man is probably you only want him to be the leadoff man once. I mean, if he's the leadoff man 3 times in the game,
you got a
things
problem.
are probably not going right.
Things aren't going well.
So my only rule would be this. I'd say your top hitters are the guys you want to hit the most. So those guys got to be in your top 5. But how they're arranged maybe isn't always that important.
Yeah. I was just made me think, and I can't remember the whole details of the story, but I think it was a story Bill Vexel told. And I want to say it was about Charlie Grimm. Maybe it was after they won. Maybe after it was Milwaukee clinched their pennant up there in the old American Association, and they had a big party, huge party.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, half the team didn't show up. Charlie had pitchers playing everywhere, and as the guys came to the ballpark, Charlie said, "If I could see the whites of their eyes, they went into the game."
Oh, God.
There was a guy who relaxed the Cubs in a couple of pennants.
Charlie Grimm is, actually.
Back in the 30s?
When I was, I had told you about that book that I wrote about the 45 Cubs pennant season, and the guy did a sort of a recap of all the teams in the National League. And there was, in that era, I don't know if it's just that you and I maybe don't know as much about it, or, it's pretty long gone now. But you had Charlie Grimm, Bill McKechnie, who was an excellent manager. Leo DeRocher was, of course, managing.
I think Billy Southworth, another guy, a very underrated guy. I'm glad you remembered him, because I wasn't going to be able to come up with his name. Yeah.
But those 4, and there might have been a 5th in that group of 8 teams in that league at the time that were excellent managers. And in a time when baseball, probably the manager had to play a huge role, because you didn't have the same amount of talent that you had, them being the Warriors.
Yeah.
So,
and there were guys who were, managed to pull out the best out of the players.
yes, definitely. When I was talking with Al Marks on the phone the other day about whether he was going to be here today, and one of the things that we talked about is, what constitutes a good coach. And I don't want to go into the whole conversation.
Because that was one of the questions I was going to ask.
Yeah, okay. So we'll leave that. But I would just say this. Let's go on to the next subject then.
Oh.
What? Okay.
I don't know. What do you want to talk about? I'm out of material.
You had made the comment that the Bears, who we love. I tell you, John, what do you think? I think the Bears get more talk on this show than anybody. Do you think so?
John has a disgusted look on his face.
Yeah, he doesn't like to talk about the Bears. For such a lousy team.
It seems like every radio station you turn on, here you turn on WBBM. When I go up to Wisconsin, Channel 4 WTMJ, all their newscasts, the first thing they start talking about is either the Bears here in Chicago or the Green Bay Packers up in Wisconsin. It seems like, to me, and I don't know, I may be wrong, but it seems to me like the football season never ends.
And that's
true.
the way they've designed it.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's the way they've designed it.
Because
They want to build. They want to keep building interest in there. Why do you think you get such a hype over the draft?
Yeah.
My God.
Well, think, though, if you had to rely on just the 16 games in the season, you might not get that interest.
You're
I think
not going to get interest in it.
Their problem is that they have to they have to worry about off-season publicity because it's only a 16-week season, and they have to drag that out as long as they can. The other leagues have long seasons.
Think back. I just finished reading a book which was probably documented what really began the modern NFL. Was Frank Gifford's book about the '58 title game between the Giants and the Baltimore Colts, the great overtime game. And that's essentially what really was the birth of the modern NFL, because it was such a riveting game, and people started to hear about this, and the ratings got bigger and bigger and bigger as the game went on. And then people suddenly started thinking, wow, look at this. These are warriors out there. And that's what they wanted. And that's what the NFL wanted. And you still had Burt Bell running the league then until he passed away about a year or two later. And then you started to have the sharper people with the marketing sense coming in. You had guys, you had Pete Rozelle for all those years, who turned the league into the moneymaker it is.
Well, if we had a big listenership, I know that what I'm about to say
What do you mean?
Would get a ton of calls. But I would say if you think about what I think of as the four major sports, baseball, basketball, football, and hockey, I would say the least skilled of those sports is football. But they will sell it to you as if, oh, my God, you have got to be, what an athlete you have to be a football player. I would say that if you take your biases and put them to the side and think about each of those games and what you have to do to perform well in them, that football is the least skilled by far of either of the other three.
Yeah, and the fact that the NFL can exploit this and create these marketing events. You saw the NFL marketing machine in full force with Draft Town during the time here. In these fan experiences that they've had in cities for Super Bowl, where they've had the Super Bowl. So I mean, they can generate a huge amount of cash, and they keep the league in front of the people all year round. In certain cities, I mean, I don't care. I don't care if the Hawks do win their third Stanley Cup. This is still going to be a football town. Mm-hmm. This is still going to be a football town.
Unfortunately, because I don't understand really why it is a football town.
I don't.
We have four other great franchises.
I don't understand it either, especially when maybe it's just the fact that we enjoy our misery and it gives us something to complain about.
Well, I think
it gives us and you've got the radio stations feeding off of this.
No, I think that the NFL, the unique thing about the NFL and the Bears in this town is the way that the football has to be scheduled. You look forward, if you're a fan, to that one game every week, where with all the other teams, well, if I miss a couple of Bulls games, guess what? I missed 2 out of 80 whatever.
82 games.
I'll see a couple
whatever.
more somewhere down the road.
Right.
So it's a whole different deal.
And a lot of people look at it. A lot of people look at it and go, "Well, doesn't mean anything until the playoffs."
With basketball,
yeah. A lot of people look at. I mean, let's face it. People are looking at the college game now and said, "Doesn't mean anything until they get to the tournament."
Well, there's the other thing though about football. is the fact with 16 games that they can, it makes me sick, but they can realistically hype a certain game in game one and say, well, what a big game it is. And they will do that. And I'll sit there and want to gag game 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever.
And
all the way through to 16 or however many, 17-week season, whatever it is.
Right.
But they legitimately, if you lose one of 16 games, it's not like it's a minor thing. Whereas if if the Hawks lose 3 in a row during the hockey season, yeah, they're in a slump, a little bit of a down, but it's not going to kill them in the long run. I mean, assuming they're going to play to the level that they're normally playing at.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that every game, because there's so few games, every game is magnified that much more.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas, like you say, people will say in basketball, the last 2 minutes of the game is all there is. And I'd say, well, how did we get to this last 2 minutes being tight if we didn't play the first, 46? So I mean, there's another thing, a topic we could be on forever. The talking points that are out there about these various sports.
We'll go over. John doesn't care. John lets us play.
That are totally ridiculous. I've never been one to say, well, all you got to do is watch the last 2 minutes of a basketball game. That's ridiculous.
You've got a whole storyline developing prior to that.
Yeah, definitely. You do.
I mean, you saw examples of this. Game 1 and 2 of the NBA Finals. You had a whole storyline developing right there. Yeah. Game 1, I mean, is Kyrie Irving up to it?
Right.
And when he wasn't, what's LeBron going to do?
Yeah, what's LeBron?
The
other 11 guys are just going to stand around and do nothing. What is LeBron going to do?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what. And you know what?
He's your head coach. I don't care about David Blatt standing on the sidelines. Here's your head coach.
Well, almost any team that's got a player of that stature, that player is going to have a huge say-so, not just with the coaching, but in the organization. And it sort of, we're old school guys in a sense that goes against your grain. But really, when you think about it, it makes sense. You want to keep your bus guy happy. And as long as that guy does it the right way.
Sure.
It's not a problem. And as long as the person like a David Blatt in this case, or, hey, how much have you heard from Eric Musselman since LeBron's been gone from Miami?
Not Eric much.
Spolstra. I'm thinking of Bill Musselman.
You're thinking of Bill Musselman.
Eric Spolstra, since he's been gone from since LeBron's been gone from Miami. And I don't think. And here's the other thing: it doesn't make Spolstra any less or better of a coach. But obviously, it was a lot easier to win with LeBron there.
Sure. Sure.
And that doesn't mean he knows any less. He didn't get stupid in a year.
Yeah.
So
I mean, think of a great example about managers performing differently with different people surround them.
Mm-hmm.
Did Casey Stengel get stupid from going from the Yankees to the Mets?
No.
Or was it just, although Casey used to nod off on the bench, and Jimmy Pearsall will tell you a story about that.
Sure. Although I have to say, with Casey, when you had you had the club that he had with the Yankees, I know that Jim Kelly again will say, well, look at a guy like Tony Kubek. He played shortstop. Sometimes Casey'd put him in center. Gil McDougald played third. He played short. He played second. Casey liked to have, just like say a guy like Madden will talk about versatility.
Exactly.
He liked to have that. And you know what? Sometimes he would do something like that. He'd put a guy someplace and everybody'd say, well, why did he do that? But you know what? It seemed like most of the time he had his thoughts about it were correct. What he was thinking about was correct. Now, when you have a team like the Boston Bees or some of the other ones that he managed, the Brooklyn Dodgers, who didn't have the talent, well, you're not going to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could take whoever you thought the greatest coach was in basketball and put 10 midgets on the team, and he could coach the heck out of the game. He's not winning anything.
It was always interesting. People always talked about, there were the rumors that, Phil Jackson was going to come back to coach. Maybe he was going to coach the Knicks at one point in time. Mm-hmm. Jackson never had to build a team. Jackson never had to be, and that's why it was surprising with his role with the Knicks now, because he never had to build a team. Everything he did, he inherited.
Well, I sort of disagree with that because the Bulls team that he had changed over the course of the years, so that team had to be
fine-tuned.
Retuned.
Fine-tuned.
I go back to what I don't know if I've said this to you, but I talked to Jim Matthews about this. You could say say that whoever wins the championship, whatever sport this year, you could come back with the exact same team, no changes, everything the same, and nothing will be the same.
Yep.
So that's human nature.
That's human nature.
That's the way it is.
All right. Well, we didn't even get a chance to talk about two of the critical signings this week in the local sports. Ife Umodu. And I just happened to glance down at the deals, and the Schaumburg Boomers signed right-handed pitcher Kamakani Yusu.
Oh, I love it. I love that.
Yeah, I thought we didn't even get a chance to talk about the effect that he's going to have on the Schaumburg Boomers.
But did you see? I was very disappointed to see the Pittsburgh Pirates outrighted. Now, this not in this week's paper or in today's paper, but as of within the week, they outrighted Radames Liz to whatever their AAA.
Oh man, how could they give up?
I don't know.
How could
Radames Liz?
Oh man.
He's gone.
All right. Well, that's just about ready to wrap this thing up. Yes, my last time doing this as a single person.
Yes.
20th. Did you buy your suit?
Yes.
Good.
No, I didn't. Let me say this on the air, folks, and I'm going to say this to you, Jim. If the Thursday before the wedding I didn't have the suit, I would go out and I would spend $500 to get the darn suit tailored. I am not going to spoil your wedding by not having the suit. So you know what? Just quit worrying about the suit and tell Dana the same thing. That's all I'm going to tell you. I will not spoil your wedding by not having the suit. So
you're being big trouble.
Yeah. I know. I'd be in big trouble as right.
You think I was mad? You think you haven't seen her yet?
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna see her yet.
So you haven't seen anything unless she gets mad at you. Been a lot of fun. Thanks to the Doctor of the Dials once again. We'll see you sometime in July. I can't figure out the date yet, but once we get done with this, we'll figure it out. Thanks for listening. We will catch you again. We are Taillights.
And again, Jim, I want to wish you and Dana the best of luck in the years to come. God bless you, and I hope you have many, many years of happiness together.
Thank you.
God bless you, pal.
Thank you there, Doctor. We'll catch you another time.
You have been listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Wednesday, June the 10th, the year of our Lord, 2015, on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network with the WRHS sports announcers Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. This broadcast was directed by John DeVita, and our special thanks to Kevin Zeflik of radio station WRHS FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Seconda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Tuesday, June the 9th. Until next time, please be safe and thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois, a Ridgewood Community High School radio station.